Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Access. In this module, I want to show you how you can create some simple basic queries in Microsoft Access. So I'm in the sales database and let's just recap what we've got here. We've got a table for customers, we've got a table for products and a table for sales. So let's close those off. Now I've already got some queries that I've been doing over the past few sessions. But let's look at creating a basic query, for example, just to pull out Leeds or Newcastle as a city. Now before you need to go for a query, what is a query? A query is something that you want the information or the answer result of all the time, that you may have based a report on, so it's producing management information. A filter though is something that's a bit ad hoc. You just want it now and again. Somebody's asked you a random question and you go for a filter option. You don't necessarily need to create a query for that, and that is a big mistake a lot of people make. They create query upon query upon query that never get used ever again, and it just fills up this left hand side with queries that don't need to be there. And then when there's too many queries, people don't know what they're based on, or what form might be based on them, or what report might be based on them, and nobody dares delete them off. And it would be a big admin job for somebody to go through each one to check if it was just a query that's no longer needed. It should have been a filter. So just to recap, a filter, for example, so if I want to see in this table just the Leeds areas or Leeds cities, I just take that tick off, tick Leeds, and I get Leeds. And then you can drop that back down and select all and put that back on. Now you've also got the option to do multiple columns, and you've got options up here to do by selection. So if I click next to Newcastle and then do that one, gives you that option equals Newcastle. It's the same as dropping the arrow down, and then you've got this toggle button which toggles between the answer and brings all the other results back. And again, you can go to advanced and clear all filters so it doesn't do that. So they're just basic filters that you've got already. Now a query you need to create, so I'm going to the create tab, and then you have the wizard option, but I'm going for query design. So query design, the first thing you need to do is bring the table into this area. This is called the query by example grid, but let's bring the customer table in. Just expand that so you can see all the fields. Now this, what you'd need to do is get these fields into this grid. Now you can just bring a couple of fields down by double clicking them like so, and that's all you will see as a result. So I'm just going to delete those two off because I want more than that. If you click on this star and double click, it actually brings all the fields down, but then you would bring another field down, say city, with the tick off, where that means don't show that. So if I run this query, you'll see all the fields and you will not see the other city field. What that's used for is the criteria, so I would put maybe there Leeds. So when I run that, it's just going to show me those two records from Leeds. Go back into design. I don't want to do that either, but that is a tidier way of doing it, because if you've got a lot of fields, you could be scrolling along here looking for the criteria. What is that? Let's get rid of the property sheet. What is that query doing? So if I just delete these two off, what I tend to do is double click at the title. They all go pink or whatever color scheme you've got. Pick them up, drag and drop them down. When you run the query now, that'll be exactly the same as the table because we haven't asked any questions. And this is where you ask questions on the criteria row or the all row. So for example, if I wanted a query that just give me Leeds, I would type Leeds in there. When I click down below that, you'll get little quotes around it, which means Access recognizes that as a text field. When I run the query, it'll be the same as before. You're just showing Leeds, but this time I'm going to save it. So Control S to save. Give it the prefix QRY, and it's looking at the table customers. So I tend to do a little story here. Table customers, and then Leeds is the filter, if you like. So you can actually read the name and know what it's doing. So I'll click OK to that and then close that one down. close this table down. In fact, I won't close the table down, I'll just change one of these to leads. So this is how it works. So if I just change this one to leads, so I've got an extra one, close that down, and then run that query. This one. So now you've got 3 records, so it automatically picks that up. So if I go close that down, if I base a report on that, so if I go create report, I'll just do the wizard report, well not the wizard but just the automatic report, so it just generates it straight away. Obviously you'd have to fix this because it's terrible, but if I just close this, it's got 3 records. Do you want to save it? Yes. I'll put RPT in front of all that so it gives you the name of what that's looking at. And then if I then go back to the table and put one of these to say Bradford, now there's back down to 2. The query does the work, but the output is the report. So the report now should only show 2 records for leads. If I double click on that, it's showing 3 for leads. Have I got 3 for leads? That's not clicked off, that's why. So I shall close that down and close that down and do that again. So run that. 2. Now the reason that didn't show 2 initially is because I never tabbed off the record when I edited that. So I went into the table and I never tabbed off this record, so it was still pending. Something you've got to be aware of in Access. I changed it, but it wasn't complete, so I must tab off the record, get onto a new line, or close the table, and then it will pick that up. So if I do that the other way around, back into customers, put that back to leads, tab off that record, well, close the table down. So now we've got 3 records, go straight to the report, double click, 3 records. That's how Access works. So this is your output. Even though the query is there, it's just doing the work. But close that one down. Let's do another query. So new query, create query design, bring the table across, add all the fields. Now this one, I'm going to look at the date joined column. So this is a date joined one. Let's have a quick look at the table. So we've got May. So everything after May, so I just want these 2 records to appear. Everything after May. So all you do in the criteria line is you go greater than, in this case I'll go the 1st of June 2022. When I click down, that little asterisk or hash key, hash symbol, says that that is recognized as a date field, which is great. If you got quotes there, you'd have got a bit of a problem. It means in table design you would have left that on text. You would need to fix that. But when I run this query, it should just show me those 2 that marry up with that criteria, the 2 that are in August. And then I'll just come back into design on this now. So I'm not saving this, but I would normally save it. I'm just going to knock that off because I want to do a query where you're grabbing information from multiple columns. So this one, company. So I want, let's have a look, the company AMAC and leads. So double things. So company, that's AMAC. So in there, AMAC Limited and city leads. So this is an AND query if you like. Leads. Run that query. Query design, run. And then that picks that up, and then you could save that again, but I'm not going to save it. I'm just going back into design and getting rid of that criteria. Remember, you do save queries. I'm just not saving this for demonstration purposes. Now another great query is if I wanted to look at every city, every time I created a new record, there potentially could be loads of different cities in this list, and I'd have to create hundreds and hundreds of queries to marry up with each of these cities. So there is a query type that you can do, which is called a parameter query, which gives you a box that you can then enter the city in. Now you're still on a criteria row, but to do a parameter query, you need to open a square bracket and then type yourself a prompt. Enter the city. You cannot just put the word city there in square brackets because that would Access would think that's a field name. So that's what I want. So if I run that query, it's going to come up with a box, and then I can type in leads and it'll show me leads. Now I am going to save this one. I'm just going to call this QRY para to show you how this all works. So there's that query, QRY para. Click on that. I'm going to create a report, and same report. It's coming up with that query look. So I'll type leads. So it'll create the report for leads, and I'll close it, save it. Yes, put RPT in front of that. So it's a report that's looking at that. So the next time I run that report, RPT para, it will ask me again because the query is doing the work, remember. So now I'm going to type Newcastle upon time, and then I get the Newcastle ones. So every time, I'll close that down, every time I run that, the query does the work and it interrogates the table, customers. Now that last one there is just the default settings, so that's not actually a record, so there's only 2 records for Newcastle. So that's the parameter query. Now another query, I'll create another query, between and and. So what I want to do this time, just add the table again, double click on the title, drag and drop. So now under the date joined, I want to do a between and. So you can do just type between and type and then 2 dates in between that, but that's a very static way of doing a between and query. What I like to do is use the parameter box that I've just shown you and the between and then you get the best of both worlds because you can type in dates as and when you need. So it's very hard to see what I'm going to type here, so I'm going to go Shift F2, which will zoom up that box so you can see what I'm going to type. Between, that's the first thing. Do a parameter box. Now enter the first date, close the square bracket, then and, open the square bracket, enter the second date. So whatever you type inside these square brackets is what appears on the box that comes onto the screen. So just check I've got that right. Between and is the key thing here. Yep, okay. So now when I run this, it's going to ask me for the first date, which I need to put in there. So I'm going to go the 1st of the 1st 22, pressing enter or click OK. Second date, 1st of June 22, enter, and it just shows me the 3 records prior to today's date, those 3. Now I will save this as a query, so I'll just close yes. So I'll call this QRY between, so I know which one it is. Okay, and closes that down. So now if that was based on a report, that would be, say you might have a sales report that may run between sets of dates, but if I just click on that between query and do my little report again, it's going to ask me for the first date. So this time I'm going to go the 1st of August 22 to the 31st of August 22, and it'll create the report, which I'll then save. So it's just picked up those last 2. Close that. Yes, RPT in front of that, so I know where it's looking at. And then if I run it again, and I'll be able to put different dates in there. So now I'll go the 1st of the 1st 22 and the 1st of the 6th 22, like the original one, and I get the other 3 dates, the other 3 records, and then I'll just close that one down. So that was the between and. If I go back to this one, I'm going to right click, design, between and to see it you're doing Shift F2 on the keyboard, so you can actually see that in there and don't have to make this any wider than it already is. So that's a between and query, very useful. Let's just cancel that off and close this down. Yes, I do. Now this database that's been built up. If you go into database tools and relationships, you can see that I've got these tables that are all related. When you've got related tables, you can create queries over multiple tables. So that's what I want to have a quick look at now. So I'll just close this. So I'm still going to create query design, but this time I'm going to bring in customer, product, and sales. And then as soon as I bring that in, you can see that the links are there. So what you've got here, look, is different fields. So I've got sales ID, customer ID. Now if I just double click on customer ID, it'll put it in there. And then if I, from this table, if I go customer name, let me just have a quick look at what that does. So customer ID is a lookup, so it's giving me that. So that's a bit of a duplicate, so I don't need that. That's not always the case. You might have a number there. If I drop this arrow down, it's just a list, a lookup list that I created earlier. So I don't need that. And then if I go product ID from that table, run, so it's telling me what the product is. And then if I go quantity there, it's going quantity, and then I have got the price in the products table. So you've got the quantity, the VAT due, and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just go for price, and if I run that, it's bringing the individual price in, but I've got, that's just an individual. I would need to put a formula there to work out what that price is. So I'll try that one. So it's going to be in there. I'll just go, I'll call it total. Can I call it total? I think I can. You can't call it anything that's already got a field name. I'll do Shift F2 so you can see what I'm doing. So total is going to be QTY. Now you've got to be careful here because we've got stock quantity, so quantity there, which is okay as long as your fields are fairly obvious. So if I had quantity there and quantity there, I would have to use the expression builder. It wouldn't like it, and it might not even like it now. Let's have a quick look. So quantity times price. I have to go in square brackets because they're fields. Click OK. It looks alright. It's not rejected it. Let's run that, see if it comes up. Yes, it has. It's just done it. But I'll show you in a different video what happens if you've got similar fields. That may come up with an issue, and then you have to use the expression builder in there. So basically, this query now is giving you customer, what they've bought, and quantities that they bought, and what the individual prices were, and then what the total is, and then obviously you've got the VAT and stuff like that. So let's just go on. Yes. So I'll call this QRY sales amount, and then you build your report on that. So where is it? QRY sales amount, that one. Now I'm going to create a report differently. I'm going for the report wizard. Discusses some figures in here, so I'm taking all those across. Next, so it's grouping by customer ID, so that's going to put everybody as a group, which is what I want, and then it's going to list everything underneath that. Go next. Summary options, so by customer you can do a sum on total and then percentage of overall. Okay, it's up to you what you do there. Next, I want it landscape. It does say that, but you tend, when you use this wizard, to have to do it yourself as well, manually fix these fields, because there's usually truncated fields, but you never know. Next, and then RPT in front of that to give that a name, and then finish. And let's see what it creates. Well, there you go. I'm eating my words. It didn't truncate. However, it hasn't. So these are customer 1. So this is where it hasn't put the customer name through. It's just put the customer reference number through. So I'd have to fix that query. So it does bring the customer name in. But, and also that box there for some reason is not formatted to pounds. So in this case, what I need to go is close print preview and get onto this, go to properties, and just click on all or format, and then drop the arrow down. That needs to be currency. I think it's that one. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, it is currency. So now it's all currencies. This is quite a nicely laid out report. If that just said the customer name, Stephen Saxton, instead of my ID number, but that's the wizard's done quite a good little report there. And then you've got a grand summary at the bottom, which also needs to be formatted, which I'll just go back and do that. That one, that needs to be formatted to currency. Have a look. Now that is truncated, so that's where the box needs to get a bit bigger down the bottom there, so it can be seen. Have a look. So now I can see it. So that's great. So I this down. Yes, I do want to save it, and there's my report. So that's just a quick look at some very basic queries for beginners in Microsoft Access. Obviously you can get a lot more complicated that, and I will do and have done on other videos, but hopefully for this little session that was of use. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.